Hello everybody, and welcome to today's review of Knives Out. It is the new film directed by Rian Johnson. As some of you may know, Rian Johnson directed Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and this movie is a follow-up to that movie. I can't discuss this film in great detail, so I'm gonna lay out all the facts of the movie and then give you my general opinion at the end. So this movie is a modern take on the whodunit movie set around this one wealthy family, the Thrombes. The patriarch of the family, played by Christopher Plummer, is Harlan Thrombey, the world-famous crime fiction novelist. One morning, Harlan is discovered dead by the housekeeper shortly after the entire family had gathered together at his estate to celebrate his 85th birthday. He was found with a dagger in his hand and what appeared to be a self-inflicted wound to the neck. So initially, the authorities rule it out as a suicide and case closed. However, in comes Private Detective Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, who is actually mysteriously hired by an unknown benefactor to kind of look into Thrombey's death. And after he questions each member of the family, he quickly discovers that each of them has something to hide. And he comes to the conclusion that Thrombey's death may not have been a suicide. So this film takes a lot of inspiration from Agatha Christie. And me, I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie. I've read a lot of her books when I was a kid. In fact, I'm reading one right now. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Also Murder on the Orient Express, one of my favorite films of all time. The 1974 version. Not the Kenneth Branagh one. I hope Kenneth Branagh does a better job with Death on the Nile. Seriously, we haven't had a good murder mystery movie in a long time. Until now. This movie was brilliant. I love the crime genre. I love how you're so invested in the story and in the plot, and it's sort of like a game. Like you keep on guessing and guessing, and then by the end of the movie, you either leave with the satisfaction that you were right, or the bewilderment of how you were so wrong, and you revel in the fact that you were blindsided. It's amazing. I mean, who doesn't love a good puzzle? And let me tell you, Rian Johnson has crafted a clever movie. Now here's one thing I don't really like about murder mystery movies. It usually takes an hour and a half to get to the actual murder. And during that whole time, it's very expositional. You know, we learn who's who, how they're related to one another, what's their beef with the person who ends up getting killed. And what Rian Johnson does right off the bat is that as soon as we start the movie, bam, we see the dead body. He doesn't waste any time. We just jump right into it. And then we later find out who's who and the circumstances prior to that death during the investigation. So whatever the authorities learn, we learn along with them. And I think that's pretty good. And this film has a terrific cast. I mean, you can't really have a good murder mystery without a stellar cast. Christopher Plummer, I mean, the guy's a legend. He can't do wrong. Chris Evans delivers the best performance of his career. I'm not kidding. We have never seen him like this before. Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, Toni Collette, they really hold their own and really take advantage of the screen time that they're given. Ana de Armas and Daniel Craig obviously have the most screen time in this movie, and they're both terrific. Although that one kid from It, Jaeden Martell, he seemed kinda underutilized. Same thing with Katherine Langford's character. The film didn't really spend a lot of time on those two. However, because of the way the script was written, these characters still kept the plot going, and by the end of the movie, you see they served an integral role. Here's another thing that I think Rian Johnson does pretty well in this movie: the tone. The first half of this movie is a pretty typical whodunit movie. There's a murder, everybody's a suspect, everybody's a liar, everybody has something to hide, and blah blah blah. In fact, sometimes the movie acts like a parody of itself. But then halfway through, the atmosphere changes and it starts to take itself seriously again. It almost seems like a different film after that. Like it's no longer a murder mystery movie. But then Rian Johnson takes us full circle and brings us back to the murder mystery element because the game is not over. There are a lot of holes to fill and a mystery to solve. I thought that was pretty clever and a kind of unique touch to this genre. It certainly kept me interested throughout. It's like I always wondered where this was going, and the plot just keeps getting better and better, and there's more and more things that we learn that actually gets us more excited to learn what happens at the end. There are even some times when you think you may know the answer, but then you realize we don't know the full story. There's always something that we miss, and Johnson is a great one when it comes to detail. You gotta really pay attention to this movie because the devil is in the detail. The tiniest things that we just feel like were mundane turned out to be the most important detail, and what do you know? The answer was right there in front of us the whole time. Wow. See? Another attribute to a great murder mystery. I mean, this guy is just hitting all the right points. The film does tend to get a little political sometimes. Lots of modern day issues of race and class and illegal immigration is addressed in this film. I appreciated the fact that this film was not trying to shove political jargon down my throat. They're not promoting anything. The politics was merely used to establish the attitudes of these characters and their attitudes towards one another. Again, this draws back to Agatha Christie, who used stereotypes and prejudices of other cultures as a way for the characters to raise suspicion amongst each other. Because, I mean, nobody likes to be interrogated under a microscope. And people will say all kinds of things in order to shift that microscope towards somebody else. Rian Johnson, in my opinion, has rejuvenated the whodunit movie. He put his own spin on it while at the same time implementing the usual devices that made it great in the first place. I mean, with its direction, its writing, and its cast, this movie keeps you guessing all the way through until the very end. And not only is it thought-provoking, it's highly entertaining. I think this film will be remembered as one of the great examples of the whodunit movie for years to come. No question, this is one of my favorite films of the year. And you know what? In spite of the minor flaws that it has, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I really can't wait to see this again. I'm gonna give Knives Out an A+. Seriously, good job, Rian Johnson. And thank you to anybody who decided to watch this video. I hope to see you again next time.